Hi, I'm Shamel Lane, and I'm here with episode 2 of the video series for Pretty Paper Party. And in our continuing discussion of embellishments, today we're going to look at 2 different ways to make embellishment clusters. And the first way, we're going to look at embellishments that are purely stacked. They don't move out to the side. They start with one shape and they move up. So you're just building layers on top of one piece. To start this embellishment, I'm going to use this large sticker. And it has a pinked edge that you can see. And I'm going to build the whole embellishment right here on the sticker sheet. This is from Sassafras. And I'm going to add everything here. When the embellishment's done and I'm ready to add it to my layout, then I can just peel the whole sticker off and the whole embellishment will be built right on top. So I want to start with this as the largest size in the stack, and I want to add things that are smaller but also similar shapes. So I want other things that are circular. To do that, I've pulled out some punches. So I have some scalloped circles in a variety of sizes. There's 3 sizes of scallop circle. I'll also use some plain circles because all scallops doesn't give you quite enough variety. So I have a plain circle there as well. Some other things that are circular, I have some buttons. And then these, which I love these, I get them in every single color and finish. They're really simple embellishment called candy dots. They're by Pebbles. And they come in all different finishes, so like matte, pearl, metallic. They come in plain dots or buttons or sometimes shapes depending on what collection they match with, in all different colors. But they're basically just like individual sticky pieces. So you can add one of these on top of a little button or on top of a circle, or in the middle of a butterfly bunch. So I've got all these things to hand. I also have, if you notice, none of these are going to be quite big enough to start filling this gap. So I've also brought out a pack of die cuts, and these are from Basic Gray. These are called die cut flowers. There's no special extra fancy name for them, just called die cut flowers. And this is the pack from the Piccadilly collection. And they are actually not, they're not all paper, they're a mix of paper and fabric. So what I wanted to do was find something that was about the size of that circle, and there's the perfect piece. So I'm just going to leave that there. And I just start adhering as I go. So I'm just going to use my tape runner, and with flowers like this, I just add the adhesive to the middle because I like the texture of these pieces not being glued down, and all the extra layers on top are going to hold that in place, and that's stuck quite fast, so that's not a problem. And then I'm going to start adding paper layers. So I want to go with the biggest punch first, and I've pulled out a double-sided paper that's quite different on the 2 sides, so I can use both sides of the design in this stack. So I'm going to punch the 2 largest sizes that I've pulled out. So I can go with the flowers in the larger size and the green on top, or the green there and the flowers, and I like that better. And here's why. There's a pattern here and there's a pattern here, so this reads more like a solid, and that makes it easier to see the patterns. So I'm just going to adhere those straight as we go. So that's stuck there, and then the patterned one on top of that. And if you want to ink edges, you can do all that as you go too, of course. Okay, so that's the larger 2 sizes done. Now I'm looking at smaller pieces. So I also have some other sizes here in this die cut pack. So let's see if there's anything that's a good size match for just smaller than that circle. Maybe this blue flower here. Or perhaps this yellow. Come here. There we go. Yep. So that's repeating this same shape here. And similar colors, but not completely the same, not identical, not matching. And then I'm going to look here for something to go in the center of that. Just pick a button, maybe a green button, yeah. And I think perhaps something just a tiny bit bigger then that button would be good behind there. So let's try this, this smaller scallop circle. And I can do more green, but that's going to be green, 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 and more green. I actually like the size of this, but I wish I had a different color. So I'm going to find a different color of paper. Just pause for a second. So I found a piece that matches the blue that's in this grid a little bit better. And that's the same punch. I just swapped out a different pattern. So I like that one a little bit better. And that means that the button on top will be a lot more visible. There we go. And then what to add on top of that? So perhaps a butterfly on this little cluster. See what that looks like. And with the butterflies, either, if there's no button, I would go right in the center. With a button or something like that, I tend to go over to the side. And I attach butterflies almost always with a foam square to give them a bit more dimension. And then I have candy dots. Just pop one in the center there. So everything here is still following this idea of circles, just getting smaller and smaller, except for the butterfly is the only thing there that's not a circle. And then for the final bit, to a stacked embellishment, I try to add something that's purposely not circular, something that's a bit more rectangular or a different shape. So what I'm going to do is see if there's perhaps one of these little greeting stickers, or this isn't a particularly good color that I've pulled out here, so maybe a different color of rickrack. But you can see how if you add one horizontal element to something, or a straight element to something that's all very rounded, you just get that little contrast, and it will highlight the repetition of all the other layers. So I think I will go with one of these stickers. This is a good color. And again, I'm going to use foam squares for this. And then I just pop this below. And for the placement, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the circle for where it hits the width of this, because I want it to go just over the edge of that circle, but not too far. So that determines the placement. There we go. And I would probably stitch these buttons to finish it off, because I don't tend to like buttons that don't have stitching in them. So I'd either stitch them for real or just stitch it on the button and then adhere the whole thing with the glue dot. And then when I'm ready to add this to a page or a card, I just peel this whole thing off and attach it to the layout. So the whole piece is ready to go. So that's the basic steps for making a stacked embellishment, where you're going to start with the largest piece and just build up as many layers as you want, looking for repeated shapes, different colors and contrast between patterns and solids. And then at the very end stage, a few little bits that you can add that don't repeat that shape, but instead go against it. So if you've been repeating circles, then go for something that's a rectangle, or if you've been repeating rectangles, go for something that's circular. The second type of embellishment group that we're going to look at today is one that is stacked not on top of everything, but over to the side. So you're creating more of a loose grouping with different elements in different sizes and shapes. I'm still going to start with a larger element that's on the sticker sheet rather than building it straight onto the layout. And I'm going to use this journaling block sticker in the middle of the sheet. But because I want to work off to the side, I'm going to cut it from the background so that I have somewhere to start with. So now I'll still be able to do that same technique of building everything on here and then peeling the sticker off to attach it to the layout, but I'm going to have the freedom to work over to the side without worrying about sticking things onto the other stickers of the sheet. So I'm going to start with very similar supplies, and so the two pieces will match, but I will add in a little bit more variety than just circle shapes this time. For groupings that go off to the side, or clusters of embellishments rather than stacks, I find that this punch is really, really versatile. It's called the Photo Labels punch. It's by EK Success. But basically, you don't really even need this punch to punch this design, because it's just 3 different rectangles with the corners cut out. But it is quite fast if this is possible for your collection. The other rectangle punch that I use a great deal is one that looks like a postage stamp with the little postage edges. And if you have the postage stamp border punch, sorry, let me say that again. If you have the postage stamp border punch, you could also make your own postage stamp in any size by just cutting a rectangle and then punching the edges. So I'm going to start with this label, and I'm going to go back to that same pattern paper that I used before. And this will give me 3 different sizes of rectangle. And with that, I will start building over to the side of this piece. I do want to also include some circular layers. So I'm going to go back to this blue dotted paper. And I'll have one of those too. So I start with the largest piece, and then I'm going to start layering to the side. So instead of stacking everything on top, everything is going to go in one direction over to the side. Now, if you build this on the layout, obviously you can adhere everything all the way across. I tend to build them on the sticker, and then when I'm ready to adhere it, I'll just add extra adhesive here. But if that makes you, if it makes you just start taping things to the desk, then ignore this idea and do it straight on your layout. That's fine too. And in here, let's see, time to spill these out and see what goodies are here. So the reason I like to work this way is because this now means I can add things behind the layers I've already attached. So I'm going to take this daisy, and I want it to come out this corner here. But I now see that I'm going to waste half of this, this side isn't going to show. So I'm going to cut it in half so that I can use that somewhere else. And then I just take this little piece that I know is going to stick to the daisy, add the adhesive there, place it on top, and now that's stuck, and I don't have lots of extra glue anywhere. And then I want to start looking for other things that can add some variety. So I want another small rectangle here, but I also don't want to just layer rectangle on rectangle, because that's just a stack. I want a little bit different as I go across to the side. So I'm going to look for just a plain circle, and I'll punch that from a side we haven't used yet. So I haven't used these. I think what I'll do is make this a partial circle. I'll adhere that, and then along that bottom edge, I'll add that green label. And in fact, I want to make this move to that side a bit more, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it hanging quite far over. But this then gives me the ability to find something that's going to fit here and possibly something that will fit in this gap. I'm not particularly keen on the little gap there. So let's see what else is here that we can add in. So now I can add perhaps this blue flower. I could come back with this daisy on the other side. No, I don't like that. So blue flower it is. It's a bit too much repetition. And so I'm thinking I want a big box of paper to go here. And I'm actually okay with repeating that polka dot there because there's not a lot of it showing. So I'm going to cut some from that block. And now it starts to move in that direction. And when I put this on my layout, if this side is too much, I can always trim it back. So I tend to, if I have a bit of a free edge like that, I tend to just let it continue because it's always easier to cut it back if it's too long than it is to try and make it longer if it's too short. And from there, then I want some things with dimension. So I'm going to go back to the buttons. I think I had some more green. Yeah. So I have another green button I can add in. I can do another butterfly to match before. Perhaps do the butterfly from the green this time. There we go. And again, I would sew this button, but for the purpose of showing you here, I'm just going to go ahead and stick it down. I kind of like that butterfly pretty much where he fell, so just add a foam square in the back of the butterfly. And so here you can start to see where, although the coloring is quite mixed, because these are all different papers from different manufacturers and different collections, start to just kind of see colors repeat. So there's the green coming in all those pieces, and then just skipping the pieces that are blue, but those pieces match themselves. So kind of a trick to have just a little bit of variety, not too much, not too little. And all of that comes with just trial and error and putting things on the desk and seeing what works. I do a lot of picking things up and going, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like the shape of that one. And the more that you can identify what it is about what that element, so this one, it's the shape. The color I don't mind, but I'm not particularly keen on the irregularity of that shape compared to everything else being very orderly. Whereas this one, the shape is fine, but it's the colors in the pattern don't really go. So the more specific you can be about why you do or do not like something that you pick up from your desk, then that means the more accurate you'll get in just grabbing something and having it work. So that is essentially where I would go with this before I added it to the layout. When I did add this to the page, I'd then peel this off. I'd add adhesive here. And then on the layout, I would start to customize this. So this is a good place for a date or for letter stickers. Oh, and I would add another candy dot to the butterfly to make it match the other one that we made. There we go. And I also tend to, once things are on the page, so once I'd added this piece and the round piece that we made before, once I'd added both of these to the layout, I would then tend to go back with a few little things to the whole page. That's where I would add in strips of gems or a little extra splash of color by paint or ink. And we'll cover that in our next video, where we're going to look at one layout from start to finish with all sorts of different groups of embellishments. So give this technique a try. Grab a sticker sheet or some journaling cards. It doesn't have to be a sticker. You can also use just a die-cut journaling card or a box of paper that you've cut. Find something that will work in your stash, and then just start layering different shapes and things like that. If you don't have punches in the same shape and different sizes, just look at what you could do. You can always use rectangles because you can cut that from your scrap papers just with your paper trimmer or your scissors. If you have dies, use that shape. If you have something you could trace, like if you have a set of chipboard flowers or chipboard stars, you can trace them all so that you then have you can use them as templates and hand cut everything. Or if you're really fancy and you have an electric die cutter, you can pick different shapes and cut them in all different sizes so that then you can spread them out over the desk in different colors and layer them up. So give this a try, and in our next video we're going to take embellishments like this and go from start to finish with a whole page. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.